Shalom, shalom, family. Don't forget, thumb up the video, family. We are about to get started. As you're coming in, guys, thumb up the video, share the live. Share the live. We have a very, very powerful interview prepared for you guys this evening. Please do share the live. Please do share the live. If you guys can hear me, let me get a quick check. Am I clear? Am I clear, family? Put some ones in the room if everybody can hear me clear. Let me see some ones. If my microphone is clear, let me hear some ones. Let me get some ones, family. Is my microphone clear? Can you hear me? Check. All right, strong. All right, Remy, get a quick check real quick. Let me see if the family can hear you.
Hello, brothers and sisters.
Can everyone hear our brother Remy as well? If you can hear Remy, give us a 2. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, family. Please, if you can, family, thumb up the video and share the live. This conversation is going to be extremely powerful. The dialogue that we have planned for you guys tonight, I really think personally that it is a groundbreaking dialogue in the community. I think that we've had similar dialogues in the community, but I think that this is one of those golden moments where we have a moment in time, a moment in history where we can actually create more notches on the legacy of this culture. So be prepared to take some notes, be prepared to take some screenshots of what you're seeing, because we are absolutely going to give the people quite a show this evening. Our brother's coming to us all the way from California, and it's a 3-hour difference, but yet he still made himself available for this interview. So for those of you who are tuning in from different parts of the country, we definitely appreciate you, but I'm gonna need the family ASAP to thumb up the video. We have 24 people in the room, and I just see about 2 likes. You gotta thumb up the video, family. That's how we bring awareness to the channel. The more you guys thumb up the video, the more people will jump in, and the easier that we can start. All right. We're also gonna have a number where you guys can call in. So there's gonna be a call-in number. So as soon as you guys hear the key towards the end of the video, when we give you that key to let you know when you can call in, you guys can call in. We're going to share that call-in number in the video in the room in a couple of moments. Our moderators are going to share that number. I'm asking Maura Lavia if she can share that number so the other moderators can have it as well. All right, we're going to start in a couple moments. Let us just get some of these things out the way. All right. Share the live on your Facebook, family. Share the live on your Facebook. All right, family. As you guys can also see, we also shared our Cash App and PayPal info. I'd like to compensate the brother for his time this evening. So throughout the dialogue, you guys will have the opportunity to either go on to PayPal and go on to Cash App, and we'll be able to compensate our brother to do the work that people are doing in the community. It requires much more than physical support. Sometimes it obviously requires resources. Our brother came or immigrated all the way from Nigeria. He's now living in California, as you guys are about to learn, and he's going for his doctoral degree. And we would like to help to support our brother as much as possible. So please, family, if you can, throughout the night. If you could hit that Cash App and hit that PayPal to show your support, it's pinned to the top of the channel. I am just about ready. Let's go. I'm gonna fire up some questions for you, Remy. So let's begin the interview like this, my brother. I want you to just give the people a general introduction of who you are. Let us know who is Remy Ilona. Let us know about your origins, not just in the community, but where you come from in the world. If you can begin there for us, that would be great.
Good evening, brothers and sisters that are listening. I will take it real slowly because sometimes my accent is a little bit difficult for Americans to follow, but do not hesitate to tell me to slow down when you don't understand some things I say. I'm going to start from this point. I feel really honored to be interacting with a brother, a scholar like Zion Lexx, whom I have admired his efforts for the community over the years. And I'm also elated, very highly elated, that he provided this opportunity for me to interact with the listeners who are my brothers and sisters as well. As he started, I am Remy Ilona. I was a lawyer in Nigeria and a writer. I came to the United States in 2015. Before then, I had written about 8 books in Nigeria. The books are about the Igbo people and the Igbo's ethnic and cultural connections to the biblical Israelites. That's what the books are essentially about. I came to the United States to put in some more work and to begin to meet the part of the family that got cut away from us during the years of catastrophe and tragedy. I mean the transatlantic slave trade that got a large number of members of the community cut off and brought to what we understand to be the US today and the Caribbeans. Some members of the family also ended up in Liberia, Sierra Leone. We will still get to them. I think if I add a little more, as our brother said, I am presently in California at the University of California, Riverside, where I teach and study at the same time. I study religion in general, but I also teach subjects related to what we are going to discuss today. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Brother Remy. If you can, create for us a greater outlook of what life was like growing up in Nigeria and then finally making your way to America. How did you come to America? And if you can, describe for us your background. Most people are familiar with you as an author. Others may not know your impetus as a historian, and many others may not know that you're also a lawyer. So can you give us a little background about yourself with respect to you being a lawyer and a historian in Nigeria?
Well, I am one of 7 children of a man that has unfortunately, or a couple that have unfortunately left us. I'm the second to the last one. I grew up in Nigeria. I will try to bring in everything you asked. I grew up in Nigeria, did most of my basic education in Nigeria. I had 2 years I trained for 1 year as a journalist, practiced it briefly, then went into the university in Nigeria, studied law, taught law in a university in Nigeria, began my legal practice. And as I practiced law, a strange urge came upon me to put pen to paper to document how we live. How we live. I mean, my everyday experiences as an Igbo, to document it and compare it to what we have always got, to analyze and compare how we live with what we have always heard. As children, the oral tradition was that the Igbos came from Israel, but much has not been documented. So I decided to document it and let everybody see if what we do as our real life experiences match what we have always heard. So I began to document in 2002. I began the things I did as a very young child that I was no longer doing, the things I witnessed. I also had to confirm those things by talking to elders and talking to other people. And at the end of the day, I began to publish. And what I published swept people off their foot, because what was coming out, what was being put into books was exactly how the Israelites of the Bible lived, how they mourned their dead, how they married. Everything they did was done exactly as the Igbos we are doing it. So I kept on juggling these two professions, because by then it had also become a vocation to continue writing and to continue practicing law. And you know, one thing with research is that the more you look, the more you see. I then began to notice some things that had happened in the community which nobody took time to study. Why did the Igbo people reject Christianity over 100 years ago, and come up with a religion called Sabbath? Nobody really thought that, nobody bothered to wonder why that should happen. Why should the people that historians would just call them blacks or Africans? Why would they leave the Christianity that was imposed on them and come up with a religion called Sabbath? The name of the religion is Sabbath. It was after I arrived in the United States and saw a direct parallel that clearly people that descended from the Igbos came up with. I mean, the Hebrew Israelite movement. It was when I saw that parallel that I understood what was happening. As the people back in West Africa, Igbo land, we are struggling to go back to who they were. Those cut away from them and that are now in the Americas and the Caribbean, we are struggling to do the same thing. So, to go back to that struggle at that point, I kept on juggling the two, because by then I discovered that this was something I couldn't stop doing. So I continued to write, continued to publish, continued to work as a lawyer. Then in 2009, tragedy struck. I fell ill, and very few people thought I would survive. A lot of people around the world were concerned. One man in New York, he's 90 now, I adopted him as a second father. He said that a man like this would not be allowed to just die. There are a lot of people threw in their support, and thanks be to God, I had full recovery. Then one very important professor in America read a book I published after my recovery from illness. The book is on Amazon. The Igbos and Israel, an intercultural study of the largest Jewish diaspora. He read the book, gave it a 5 stars review. By the time I recovered from the illness, everything about me changed. And with changes, more changes. So I told this distinguished professor that I would like to get more involved into what I had been doing non-stop for the last 9 years or 8 years. So he paved the way with his friends, who are very honorable and good people. They cleared the way for me to arrive in the United States, where I started my education again after so many years of leaving school. I came to the United States and the Florida International University, got a degree there, then moved over to California to continue my education. I'm at the University of California, Riverside now, where I study and I teach at the same time. I think this little summary tells a little about me.
Okay, I believe it definitely does. Let me ask you this question, Brother Remy. One of the hotly debated topics in our community here in America, the Caribbean, the UK, and the UK, and I think even in Africa, many parts of Africa, is whether or not Black people, people of color, have any real genetic link to the biblical Israelites. So you have some European scholars that embrace the idea that there could possibly be Hebrew Israelites who are part of the lost tribes, as they would say, such as people like Harry Rosenberg. He's been a person to go on several platforms to say that he believes that many Blacks in West Africa, the America, and the Caribbean are the real Jews of the Bible. I have a question for you, and that I think you can speak to because of your very, very deep understanding of history, and I want to say even science, with my eye on one of your books in particular. What, if at all, what is the genetic link between the Igbos of West Africa and the Black Americans and the Caribbeans to the biblical and ancestral Israelites? What is the genetic link?
This is a big question, which we would give a lot of mileage to, and it will clear a lot of misgivings. The genetic and ancestral and lineal connections of the Igbos and their descendants in the Americans and the Americas and Caribbeans is established. I'll repeat again, the genetic, the ancestral, the lineal connections of the Igbos and their descendants in the Americas and Caribbeans and Liberia and Sierra Leone to the biblical Israelites is established by the cultural connections, by the cultural parallels between the Igbo religion and the religion in the Bible. The Igbo religion, called the Menana, as at today, is the culture in the world that shows us most clearly how the biblical Israelites lived. This is stronger than any evidence you can ever come up with in the world. Because so far, what scholars have tried to do is to look at archaeology to try to find out how the Israelites lived. Archaeology can only go so far. But if you find that culture of the Israelites still living, it tells you far more than archaeology. And everybody that has read some of these publications, even without an open mind, end up saying that this culture gives us a clear picture of what Moses was saying, gives us a clear picture of what Isaac did, gives us a clear picture of what Samson did, gives us a clear picture of what King David did. So, even before we get into DNA testing, the culture and the religion itself had shown us that we have met those people who directly fit the biblical Israelites. I'll give a few examples. I've asked very, very strong and knowledgeable people, what did God tell us that religion of Israel is to be called? These are very honest men. They said it has no name. But the Igbo religion has a name that is directly equivalent to what God described that religion of Israel as. In Deuteronomy 6:1, God told the Israelites, everything that you are being taught are the things you will do in the land. Things you will do in the land, religion you will do in the land. What the Igbos understand religion and culture to mean is things you will do in the land. And this is the only language Igbos have for, this is the only word Igbos have for religion and culture, menana. Nobody knew that these things fitted until we began this research that has become a passion for everybody that is involved. And as we go on, we will continue to talk about more profound, equally more profound similarities. The biblical Israelites and their cousins, the Midianites, understood marriage to mean covering with a garment. When Ruth and Naomi returned from Moab, and the two ladies agreed to get Ruth married off to Boaz, the language that Ruth used, the statement that Ruth made, cover me with your garment. If somebody is just reading the Bible without having access to that culture of the biblical people, then this statement will not mean anything. But come to the Igbo culture, it has profound meaning. The Igbo culture, if you come to my community and if you travel from America today to my community in Igbo land and tell them that you are here for a ceremony of covering a lady with your garment, everybody will understand that you are there to attend a marriage. Remember, Ruth was a Moabite, but the Moabites are cousins of the Israelites. The Moabites came from Lot. And moreover, Boaz understood what Ruth was saying, which means at that point, the languages of the Israelites and the Moabites had not really separated, so they could understand each other. So I'll give one more example. The biblical Israelites understood family as children of the Father. As the children of the Father. The Igbo word for family is umunna. Umunna means children of the Father. Igbos know no other word for family except umunna, children of the Father. So when you have parallels like this, you will only go for DNA testing as a formality, because what you are demonstrating is that you have found a culture that refused to change significantly for 3,000 to 4,000, 5,000 years. A friend told me that she believes that God preserved this culture for a purpose. I asked, what do you think is the purpose? He said, so that when the children of Israel want to go back to the biblical culture, they will have a living version that will enable anybody to fully understand what Moses was saying. Because it is extremely difficult to just understand what Moses was saying from the Bible alone. But if you have that culture that Moses' peers lived, it's easy to go back to it. I will give one more example before I leave this, before I move on to, before we move on to other questions, the Bible told us, or tells us, that after not after Jacob offended Esau, the mother called Jacob aside and said, "Go to my uncle's house." When Absalom killed his brother Amnon for raping his sister, he ran away to the house of the king of Geshur, the father of his mother. If you are not familiar with the culture, if you have not really seen the culture of the early Israelites in action, you will think, oh, well, they ran to their uncle's house. But if you are familiar with Igbo culture, you will see that something profound, that you are reading something very profound. If you go to the book Things Fall Apart, Things Fall Apart, written by our hero, or published by our hero, Chinua Achebe, in 1959. Fortunately, he put down what we do every day. Why I say that fortunately he put it down is, we shouldn't pretend that we don't know about the struggle going on in the world, about the problem we have with racism. We must admit that racism is a factor that exists in the world. It does not fit the racist narrative that the Israelites are also people of color. So if Achebe had not written what I'm going to say now, people will just say they are making up these stories. So when Okonkwo, the protagonist in Things Fall Apart, accidentally killed somebody, he ran away to where his mother came from. He did exactly what Absalom did. He took off. So in the Igbo culture today, it is believed that if you are in any form of danger and you run to where your mother came from, that is to her family, you are covered and protected by the religion. Nobody has any right to come there and attack you. So when you find a culture that is still living, parallelizing exactly the culture that Absalom used, all you have to think is that you have found the linear descendants of Absalom, the linear descendants of Jacob, the linear descendants of Isaac, the linear descendants of King David, the linear descendants of those people of the Bible. You will only go for a DNA test to make it formal. We went for the DNA test because it came into vogue. But unfortunately, people are scared of engaging the Igbos. I thought that the first thing that would happen when DNA came into vogue was for interested parties to say, let us come and do it with Igbos. But nobody bothered. We decided to do it ourselves. And what happened? What happened? I will show you. Oh, okay. I will, before the conference ends, I will look, before the session ends, I will look for the particular book that I published about DNA. The Igbo DNA, my own DNA particularly, the Igbo DNA has been found to be in the gene pool, starting from Ur of the Chaldeans to Israel.
Okay.
It is there. It is there. The Igbo gene pool. Unfortunately, a few years ago, a Messianic group came and did something that nobody can really understand what they were talking about. They said that they did not find evidence that the Igbo DNA is found anywhere outside sub-Saharan Africa. So my question is, is Ur of the Chaldeans, where Abraham was born, where Remy Ilona DNA was found to be in the gene pool. Is it inside sub-Saharan Africa? So every direction that people that are afraid of this truth take, we follow them and we mash them completely. This talks about that DNA, but I've written another book after that, which is titled Igbo and Abraham's DNA, because the Igbo DNA was found in the gene pool of that place that Abraham was found. And by the way, Abraham was born in Ur of the Chaldeans. Ur of the Chaldeans. Uru means place or city of the Chaldeans. I am from Uru Okwe in Egbema Ozobolo. Scattered around the Igbo land today, you will find not less than 100 Uru. And we analyzed this on Facebook recently with a group of Israelis. We analyzed it. The word is simply of Akkadian origin. And it has been found that Akkadian, Ugaritic, Ancient Hebrew, and Igbo are to a large extent always saying the same thing. They have a lot of words that match. So to recap, so that we don't just spend the whole evening on this subject, culturally, the proof is 100%. Genetically, the proof is 150%. It didn't.
If you don't mind, one moment, Brother Remy, one moment. I'm going to slow it down for one moment. I'm going to show you something on my screen, and I want your opinion. Are you familiar with Catherine Ochanu Akulanu?
Sure.
She is also, are you familiar with her? Okay. She has a book entitled Eden in Sumer on the Niger. And she says in her book everything that you actually just said, because she says in her book right here, she lets you know that the culture of Sumer can be found in West Africa. She also shows linguistically that many of the Sumerian and even Akkadian lexicon is present in Igbo language as well as Hebrew language. Now, she's no longer with us. May the Creator bless her soul. But while she was here, she was held to a high esteem. I want to kind of read some of her accolades, if you don't mind. She is a Nigerian writer, researcher, and former lecturer on African culture and gender studies. She is the former senior special advisor to the president, Olusegun, and I think I'm going to pronounce it wrong, so I'm going to ask you to pronounce the president's name because I'm sure you would say it better.
Olusegun Obasanjo.
Thank you so much. Now, if you can kindly, Remy, do me one favor. Can you make us understand how viable her contribution is in light of what you're telling us right now? Make us understand how viable her contribution is. We want to know from your point of view in light of the topic, because you're connecting now the DNA of Abraham, Sumer, and West Africa, and she does so in her work. So I want to ask you, since you're somewhat familiar with her work, to kind of speak towards just, you know, what she meant to the people of Nigeria.
As long as her work says that what we all heard as part of our oral traditions, that the Igbos are Hebrews. Remember, the Hebrews started from Abraham. As you confirmed, or as you asserted, that what I've been saying, her work, her position, she canvassed. So as long as her work fits that pattern, we would say that her works are very valuable, because she would say to have simply confirmed what we all heard, that That same culture found in Samaria is the same culture found in West Africa. So we would say that she did a good job if all her work fitted that pattern.
I thank you for that very much because, as you know, that's right now the focus of my work. The focus of my work is to show that the experience of the children of Israel, it begins with our eponymous ancestor, Abraham. And Abraham does not have his beginning in the land of Canaan. Abraham has his beginning in Sumeria, in Mesopotamia. So it's very important for us to be able to first understand what is Sumerian culture. Because if we can understand what Sumerian culture is, if we can understand what Sumerian history is, then we can begin to tie those pieces together linguistically and culturally to see if the peoples of West Africa, the Caribbean, the America, wherever you may find us in the diaspora, do we live and thrive with those same parts of culture? So here's a question I want to ask you, Brother Remy. A lot of us, when we hear the term Igbo, we automatically think of someone coming exclusively from Nigeria. I want you to first give us here in America and in other places such as Canada. We have people tuning in, by the way, as far as Trinidad, Jamaica, Canada, the UK right now live. And I also know we have people in Africa watching us right now live. So that's beautiful. What I want to ask you is, how culturally diffuse is the term Igbo in West Africa? Can we find people being described as Igbo outside of Nigeria? Also, tell us, what does Igbo actually mean?
I believe there are always layers of dispersion. As I was writing one of my recent works, I had cause to look at Cape Verde. There are certain characteristics that distinguish Igbos. I'm not in any way going to say that the Igbos are that the Igbos are special or better than anybody, but as cultures differ in the world, cultures are different. So likewise, peoples are different. There are some attributes that distinguish Igbos, define them wherever they are. I had cause to look at Cape Verde and I found that culture, and I asked an Igbo guy that lives in Cape Verde that has training in sociology, and he confirmed to me that not only does that population have traditions that mirror Igbo traditions, but that they have names that are Igbo in spellings. So, and repeatedly in this course, I have mentioned that some Igbos that were being returned to West Africa ended up in Liberia and Sierra Leone. They may not use the name Igbo today, but we know that they are Igbos, and part of our job is to isolate and help them to recover. We know that survivors of the Igbo language remain in Jamaica, Barbados, Suriname, Guyana, and in the African American culture. When I lived in Georgia, I took time to study my friend, the Professor Cooking. I saw some clear similarities between what I saw reminded me of a lot of things. The Igbos were known as grass eaters by some sections of Nigeria as recently as in the 60s. The Igbos were referred to as grass eaters because prior to European influence, a lot of populations in Nigeria did not know about eating vegetables. So when they saw Igbos eating vegetables, they said these people are grass eaters. So when I observed this African American professor always putting vegetable in his food in the stove. I asked him more questions. And these questions, I asked them in passing so that I would not push him to give me answers he thinks I would need. And I knew that I was looking at somebody whose ancestors were like all others Equianos ancestors, Igbos. Because no other group was called grass eaters. And very sadly too, oppression and genocide has followed this ethnic group around. That is still one of the reasons we should have made scholars to know that there is a connection between the Igbos and Jews. The Holocaust happened. Biafra was the worst Holocaust or worst genocide in Africa. But unfortunately, it's being denied. Just like there is an effort to deny the Holocaust now. But after the Holocaust, the worst crime against humanity to occur was what happened in Biafra. Millions of infants were starved to death. What was their crime? Their only crime was that they were Igbos. So, and then scout around for where you find descendants of this same group. What happened in the Americas was tragic. I mean, the slave trade. What happened in the Caribbean was tragic. I mean, slavery. Okay, look at Liberia, Sierra Leone. I've not bothered to get into that because I like to, once I start a subject, I will follow it to the end. These two countries passed through hell, and we don't know how the Igbo groups there suffered. And probably this would make us to take the Torah more seriously, because that Deuteronomy 28, I know that for some people, it's very, very convenient to regard the Torah as a midnight tale, but I believe that those prophecies there, as long as they are ignored, the dangers they warn about keep on being repeated. I don't know if I have done enough justice to this question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that leads me to another question. So you mentioned Equiano, which is very important. Very, very important. You and I have been talking before tonight, and I mean, we've been friends for many years now, and we need to finally meet in person, by the way.
Yeah.
So I will make sure that my next trip to California, I will remember to come and visit you. I apologize for being there last time and forgetting that that's where you reside. I will make it my business, God willing, to come and see you. So you mentioned Equiano, and one reason why I think Equiano is so important to this conversation is because you and I had a conversation offline about this. Many people in the conscious Black community, they teach that without European colonialism, Black people in Africa, Black people in America, Black people in the Caribbean, Black people in Canada or the UK, none of us would know the Bible if it were not for European colonialism, because the people who teach that, they believe the Bible is the white man's teachings and it is not aboriginal to us. They also say that no one came off the slave ships saying that they were Jews. Now, you mentioned Equiano. Before you address the other question I asked you, I want you to tell us what Equiano says was the religion of his ancestors. And remember, he came off the boat saying he was a Jew. Tell us what is the religion of his ancestors from his own words.
He was very, very categorical that the religion of his ancestors is the religion in what we call the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
He did not hesitate, and he gave instances of traditions of that religion. He did not just say the Old Testament is a document, is a record of my religion, but he gave examples of traditions. So he closed the case. He closed the case.
Beautiful. He sure did. He absolutely opened and closed the case. And one of the things that I appreciate greatly is I visited the Washington Memorial Museum, the Smithsonian Museum for Black History, also known as the Slave Museum in DC. And on the basement level, where you find the body of Medgar Evers, in another small corner is a section dedicated to Oleato Equiano. And they play a video. And in the video, they say, when Equiano arrived here in America and saw that Europeans were practicing the Bible, he said that this was strange because they were practicing the religion of his ancestors, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Which means he knew that this was his religion. So I want to say this to you, Brother Remy. What are some of the cultural traits that survive in Igbo practice and culture that is directly tied to the Bible? Give us something that we can hold, something that's palpable in our mind.
I would say that I will use language that is even simpler than culture and religion. The Igbos are practically living the Bible. Very sadly, I have lost more than a few. I've lost 3 of my siblings.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, the way we mourn them exactly as Abraham mourned Sarah, as the Israelites mourned, especially the way the patriarchs mourned. And it was 7 days. And the memorial service was that 30 days. The 30 days, after 30 days, Israelites held a memorial service for Moses. We call it Izu Ozuzu. Izu Ozuzu. And we sat under that same canopy. No, the canopy was not specified in the morning tent was not mentioned in the Torah, but well, you guys in the Western world also sit under that tent, but it's there. But concentrating on the ones in the Torah, Abraham said to the people of the people he bought the land from, sell this land to me so that I'll bury my dead out of my sight. And then they sold the land to him, and Sarah was buried out. He was mourning. The Igbo word for funeral is to mourn. Ikwakozu, to mourn the dead. And you know, your language shows the world how you see the world. Your language demonstrates how you see the world. The Igbos have no other word for mourning than, the Igbos have no other word for funeral than mourning. This is very significant because in our Nigeria, we have other cultures, other peoples that view funeral as celebration of the dead. In Nigeria, where I came from, there are cultures, people that are taking note should take note because this is very significant. Your language says exactly how you view the world. We have strong cultures in Nigeria that look at funeral as celebration of the dead. But the Igbos look at funeral as mourning the dead. And Abraham told the children of Seth, sell that land to me so that I'll mourn my dead. And then we move from Abraham to his descendant, the great Moses. Aaron before him died. He was buried, and after 30 days, Israel did a memorial. Moses, the same thing was done for him. And what do Igbos call it? Igbos call it Izu Ozuzu. His time is up. His time for mourning him is up. That is Izu Ozuzu. Then we leave the mourning and move to the marriage. I recorded the Igbo marriage here. It fits the marriage of Rebecca and Isaac like a hand and a glove. Every step that Isaac took is the step the Igbos take. There is no difference. According to Elders Rabbi Kevin Jones, he said it fits like a glove. Okay.
Let me ask you this question. Sorry. We have one of the matriarchs in our community. She's also on YouTube. Her name is Lynette. She goes by the Souls of Our Ancestors on YouTube. She says, levirate marriage, 8th day circumcision, and the bridal price are just a few surviving remnants of Hebraic culture that you can find among the Igbo. She says she worked with an Igbo doctor and he verified and confirmed these things. So can we find levirate marriage, 8th day circumcision, practice among the Igbo? How true is that?
If there are 20 million Igbo males, they are all like Olauda Equiano circumcised. The Igbos don't even know that somebody can stay without circumcision.
Wow.
And then talking about levirate marriage, it's still going on. It is still going on. In my
2020.
Presence, sure. In my presence, I'm still a young man. There were 2 brothers. And the Igbo society was very, very cohesive then. They were half brothers. From different mothers. Because, you know, we, like the biblical Israelites, the Igbos, practice monogamy and polygamy. You are free to marry one wife. You are free to marry many wives. Their father married 2 wives, had 2 sons. One died in a car crash. Because they come from the village where my mother, they came from the community where my mother came from, and that community is known for one thing. Okay, Hebrewism of West Africa, yeah. So that community where my mother came from, they are very close knit. So after the funeral after the mourning for his brother, he came to my mother and told my mother, "We have a problem now. I'm a very modern man. I've married, but my brother left a wife, a young wife. What do we do about it?" My mother said, "You have to cover the wife of your late brother. That is an eyesore for other men to come into this compound. It's a disgrace to the family. Your late brother, your ancestors will not be happy if other men come into this compound to do your duty."
Wow.
That young man listened to the elder sister, which was how he saw my mother, and he's still alive today. Probably, who knows what would have happened if he had disobeyed the tradition. So the levirate marriage is still alive 247. So I was even going to mention there is, okay, look at even the uncommon ones. I'm not as good with tech as you are otherwise. I will be pulling up some of these things. An American, or maybe he's British, came to Nigeria and discovered that the Igbos, an oppressed group in Nigeria, have been able to come up with the largest business incubator platform in the world. You know, when Thomas Sowell, this high-hitting American professor, Thomas Sowell, S-O-W-E-L-L, when he was talking about groups, the 5 top most competitive groups in the world, he included the Igbos there. So this scholar came to Nigeria, did his research, and discovers that the Igbos came up with the world's largest business incubator platform. He said he was wondering how these people in Nigeria could come up with this, and that he discovered that the only thing that the Igbos he saw knew that they were doing that was behind. They did not exactly know what was behind this product. World largest business incubator. It's not by China, not by the US, but by Igbos. He said all that they said is, when my master settled me, that's all they could say about what was going on. Brother Zion Lexx, do you know what they were doing? When thy brother Israelite becomes poor and comes to your house, he shall serve thee for 7 years. And when he is leaving, let him not go empty-handed.
That's right.
That's what the Igbos used to produce this largest business incubator. The way history looked at this Igbo business network before the tragedy of Biafra was, they said, wherever Lebanese, Syrian businessmen are dominating trading, if Igbos come, they leave. Because what was happening was, the man will go and he will take all his younger cousins and train them and settle them on the 7th year, as the Lord told us in the Torah. So, what are we going to look at? As Rabbi Kevin Jones said it, he says that the people got so used to living the Torah that they did not even, in most cases, know that it's the Torah they are living. All they know is that it's our culture.
Because it's the culture. They are living culture. What we call Torah represents the teachings of God. But for a people who have been disconnected to some of those titles, it still survives in their practice. So you can live Torah without calling it Torah, which is why it still survives among the Igbo. So I have a question for you. Tell us about the Igbo word for God. I know my pronunciation may not be perfect. I would probably say Chikuwu, but you tell us how it's pronounced. I know it means God is great, but maybe you can tell us more. Tell us about the Igbo word for God.
You did a very good job of work, and you did as well as one man that spent 20 years among the Igbos, G.T. Basden. He pronounced it similar to the way you pronounce it, Chukwu, Chi, Ukwu. And interestingly, in this book, I analyzed that word because we found a book by a Jewish rabbi who is saying that the name of the Supreme Being is close. He called the name of the Supreme Being Ano Chi. And he said that he traced it to the Shema. He said that this is the personal name of God, that the name came from a mixture of Hebrew and the ancient Egyptian. And meanwhile, a lot of Igbos understand Chi to mean personal God. And here we have this rabbi saying that the personal name of God is Ano Chi. I repeat again, and where we have the Igbos understanding Chi to mean personal God, it clicked. Chi is God, Ukwu is great God. Great God.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, Igbos that have been to China and Japan say that the Japanese and the Chinese word is Chi for energy. Chinese word for energy is Chi. So what are we saying? Remember, before humans began to diverge, humans were one and they were together. So I wouldn't be surprised that the original human understanding of the name of God was retained in the oldest Israelite culture, which is Igbo. And other strong traditions like the Chinese, the Japanese, retained that same name.
Wow, that's powerful. Let me ask you this question. I mean, it's not too often that we have someone with your skill set. So please don't be alarmed, but we want to make great use of you in this hour while we have you.
Feel free.
So we're going to take some calls a little later, but before we get to calls, I want to remind everyone that your contribution tonight will help further our brother's efforts. So you see that the Cash App is posted. You see that the PayPal is posted, family. If you could dig in and find something, we would love to compensate our brother and just to show him our appreciation and our work. I read somewhere in the Bible that the curators of the Torah are people that were taken care of by the people. The curators of the Torah are the Levites. The Levites made sure that the children of Israel had the Torah. And in return, the children of Israel made sure that the Levites did not have to go out and go into the field and take themselves out of Torah study. So the community always took care of those who preserved the Torah. So I'm going to ask you in that same spirit, family. We have our Cash App posted, family. Nothing is too small, but if you give something, it means something. Let's bring ourselves back to that space where we can take care of the curators that guard the Torah. This is powerful information. No disrespect to our brother Sarnetta, but it's a shame that a platform like that would receive more donations from our community than we give to our own community. Let's not let that happen, family. Let's not let them beat us in that respect. Let's hold the Torah to its highest regard and let's do it justice. Having said that, brother, let me ask you this question. So we talked about the culture of the Bible, of the Torah, surviving among the Igbo people. We talk about the name of God among the Igbo people. I have a question for you. To the Igbo in Nigeria, how do they receive our brothers in America and the Caribbean who are practicing Torah? Do they receive us well? We want to know from you, just to clarify or clear up any misappropriation. We want to know from you, are we received by our brothers on the continent?
They receive our brothers in America, or we receive our brothers in America and the Caribbeans as part of us. Once they appear, even if they are not talking about Torah, but once they appear and say, I came from you, look at the way TD Jakes is received. Look at the way Forrester is received. Look at the way Rabbi Kevin Jones is received. If they come and say, we are part of you, the red mat, the red carpet comes out. But fortunately now, what will make that bond stronger has come back, Torah and Domenan, because nothing binds people together like religion. Remember, TD Jakes didn't come talking about Torah. He didn't come talking about Domenan. He only said, I conducted my DNA, and my father and my mother came from you. And the red mat, he returned to the US with this. J.D. Forrester, the filmmaker, returned to the US with this. So the doors are open. The doors are 100% open. At the earlier stage, there were tottering steps because people were trying to recover. You remember, you guys passed through hell. We have also, all our life, have been suffering. From one calamity to the other. Igbo land was the epicenter of the slave trade in Africa. The epicenter. The Igbo suffered more than any other group. From there, the tragedy of Biafra descended. So people were found, people had to be somehow apprehensive. But as we return, get healed more and more. We are becoming more and more confident, and the future is definitely brighter than yesterday. So our brothers and sisters are fully welcome in our midst.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think another question is on the table because of what you just showed us. So the hat that you just showed us, to us in America, we know it as a fez. I want you to speak to us why Igbo men in particular wear that hat. I want to know, what do you call it? And tell us about the color as well, if you can.
Okay. This hat has a loaded history. There is a tradition of Israel, a tradition of Igbos, your tradition and my tradition, Zion, that as of now, we do not know if it survived anywhere outside the Igbo community. It is the Nazirite tradition. Remember, Samson was a Nazirite. And the Torah tells us, if a man or a woman takes the Nazirite tradition, he will avoid this food, she will avoid that food, she would generally be above sin, will avoid sin. This tradition survived in the Igbo community. The people that become Nazirites, the Igbos call them Nze. And according to people that are their ancient Hebrew is strong enough, that word Nazirite, since biblical Hebrew does not have alphabet, is very close to the Igbo word Nze. And what it means Nze is somebody that avoids sin. Why did God even give Israel the Nazirite tradition? It is to elevate everybody to holiness. If you are not a Levite, you are forced to also become a holy person like a Levite. So the Nazirites in the Igbo society, what they did is they passed a law that they will wear this red cap, and they said that the purpose of wearing this red cap is to always remind them of blood, so that they will not do anything by words or action that can take human life.
Wow.
You know, there is a saying in rabbinic Judaism that words can kill. The Igbos have a parallel saying, to say a bad thing about a rich man is worse than killing him physically. So in order to remind the Nazirites of the sanctity of human life, you don't only have to kill somebody when you slaughter him, they have to wear the color of blood all the time. So that is why they wear it. My grandmother was a Nazirite.
Wow.
She was a holy woman. I had to ask my mother, why wasn't this so holy? She said she grew up in our own religion. She took all the Nazirite vows because I'd never seen anybody of such sterling character. And this tradition is still alive. A lot of our friends, a lot of us took it, the Nazirite vow. We are trying to even make it stronger now, because if you take the vows, you must not sin. And as we know, Deuteronomy 28 catches up with us anytime we begin to sin. So anything that will push us away from sin is welcome.
I appreciate that, my brother. That was very, very profound. You see, this is why conversations like this need to be consistently held in our community, because you are a wealth of information to us right now. You're a huge resource. We have a lot of people that are skilled at doing various things in our community, but we are blessed, my brother, to be in contact with you. I thank you so very much for your contribution. If you don't mind, I just want to acknowledge some of the people that actually began donating. So I want to acknowledge Bait DCB in Brooklyn, the House of Wisdom, Understanding, and Knowledge. Thank you, Chief Uzael. I want to acknowledge Dalton. Thank you for your contribution. I want to acknowledge Mark Kennedy. Thank you. Brother Aslam Mahdi. If I am pronouncing anybody's name incorrectly, I apologize. Thank you for your contribution. Gadal Ben Yehuda, thank you very much. Candace Jackson, thank you so much. Capricia L. Whiting, thank you. Michael Moore, Consuelo Foster, thank you so very much for your contribution. Curtis Parker, thank you. Shalita Shapagni, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but thank you, Shalita, so very much for your contribution. Thank you so very much. We're going to continue. Before we take callers, just before, because we're about to take callers, before we take callers, I want to bring our dialogue to a close. So I want to ask you some pressing questions. I don't think it would be a fairly balanced interview if I'm not objective in asking you questions. So we're not just going to talk about things that are feel-good information. Real scholars, we have to talk about everything. So here's the thing I want to ask you. I know that there is no Talmud in West African tradition, so that when Europeans came into West Africa, I know the Talmud was foreign to many among the Igbo. But I want you to speak to us and tell us what aspects of biblical oral tradition survive among the Igbo that are similar to what we refer to as the oral tradition of the Talmud. So what oral traditions survive for the Igbo people in the Bible?
Thank you very much. The question is profound and the answer will be profound. Fortunately, again, what I'm going to say is recorded because we have come to see and know that when some people say some things, I don't mean you because you are not, you are a balanced scholar, you are not a reckless skeptic. But some people took a lot of joy in casting doubts on what some people said. So fortunately, the examples I'm going to give now are recorded, and they are not recorded yesterday, they are recorded over 50 years ago. In Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, an Igbo who was the protagonist of the story hanged himself. And his people told the colonial authorities, he has offended the community of the land. He has offended the land. So before we bury him, some rituals have to be performed. Okay. Fortunately, this is the record. This is in the record. But then this is what we all saw. This is what we all saw with our eyes. If an Igbo takes his life, the Igbo has offended God and offended the community. That Igbo is not given a regular burial. The body is thrown away. After purification must have been done, even in 2020, that is the way it must be done. The only thing that the Torah says is a hanged person is a curse. The Torah did not elaborate. So, as I was conducting my research, I was shocked when I noticed that the Ethiopian Jews, the Beta Israel, would not bury the suicide in the regular cemetery. I went further and discovered that the Ashkenazi and Sephardi will not do the same. And remember, the Torah did not say, you shall not bury him. The Torah only said a hanged person is a curse is a curse. So you can see where communities that have the Talmud and the community that don't have the Talmud have the same practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very important.
Another one, when the Igbos are digging a grave, when the Igbos are digging, if somebody died and the Igbos are digging a grave, if A jumps into the grave and is digging, by the time A gets tired, what A must do is to put that shovel or pick into a bucket. He must never give it to somebody by hand. We nearly died of shock when we read Code of Jewish, that is the Shulchan Aruch.
Yes.
And saw that Jews will never hand over the pig to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is nowhere in the Torah. Which means there is an oral tradition. There is an oral tradition that the Igbos retain by memory. Remember, what the Torah even said is, you shall have this Torah in your heart. That's what the Torah said. It shall be part of your heart.
That's right.
Igbos retained it in their hearts, and it entered the oral tradition, the Talmud, the Gemara, the Mishnah. And that, the third and the fourth one, that tent, that marriage tent, that wedding tent, and that burial tent, maybe, I hope I'm not mistaken, but I've not seen them in the Torah even. But they are present in both traditions. The unwritten one and the one that got written into the oral traditions, the oral law. So this buttresses the argument again that there is an oral tradition from which some people wrote down and some people did not write it down. They kept it in their hearts.
I appreciate that, my brother. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're going to share the call-in number. Moral Levia, if you can, just share that call-in number in the room. We're going to take some calls just now. I think that this conversation is going so powerful that we have to bring you back, my brother. We absolutely have to bring you back. That. You know, I want you to let us know as the calls are about to come in, how can we further support your work? What can we do here to support your work?
What I would say is that there is a need, a crying need for us to now begin to build networks so that we build all these communities together.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. This will benefit everybody. Zion Lexx can take a flight, go to Enugu with his family, and spend 3 months. Enugu is the Igbo capital. Zabi Ononeke can take a flight, come to America, feel very comfortable in your community. Zabi Kevin Jones will do the same thing. Both communities will become one again.
Yes.
When both communities become one again, iron sharpeneth iron.
That's right.
You're questioning me, what has it done now? It has made me stronger. When we become stronger, every member of our community becomes stronger.
Yes.
That is off the top of my head what I can think of now. Because what the world respects is strength. And when we keep on being in our little cocoons, you are here, the other man is in Enugu here, no interactions, no meeting together, we remain weak and we will not be able, if we are not strong, we can't give the world the special gifts that God has given us. And I want you, our brothers and sisters that are listening, to know that God has blessed us. I will illustrate with examples. It was in this America that I heard that the greatest American is Martin Luther King. That's what I heard. I read. A community that produced such a man has a lot to give to the world. Before Mandela died, history said that at that point, he was the greatest human being in the world. We are not saying that Mandela shares the same heritage with us, but because the structures that divide people, unfortunately, the structures that divide people would say we have something in common with him. He was also a man of color. Yet he rose to that level that he could be viewed as the greatest human being in the world at a particular time. Which means we can contribute far more than we are contributing. But if we are not strong, nobody will take us serious. And the only way we can be strong is if these interactions continue. These interactions, these meetings, these conferences, these interviews, they need to continue on a regular basis so that we will rebuild our communities. Our communities should be far stronger than they are at present.
Absolutely. Let's take this call. So we have a caller. Caller, can you tell us where you're calling from? What's your name? And give us your question.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Candace calling from Pittsburgh. Thank you for the show. I have a question.
Just speak up a little louder for us so we can hear you a little bit more clearer.
Okay. Thank you.
Matter of fact, hold on one moment, my sister. Give me one moment. Let me plug this device in so everyone can hear you nice and clear. I want everyone to hear you. All right, check. Remy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, our sister, go ahead. Again, give us your name, where you're calling from, and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is Candace, and I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And thank you, sir, for all of this wealth of information. I wanted to ask maybe two questions. I've been listening to, well, first I'll ask this. Am I correct to understand that Igbo is Bantu? Is that one and the same?
She wants to know if Igbo is Bantu, is that one and the same?
The much I know about the quote connection of the Igbo to the Bantu is I read in this author is respected. This particular author is respected. He said that the region from Igbo land, towards South Africa contain languages that will be called the Bantu languages, while from that portion from outside the Igbo land towards westwards will be called Sudanic languages. But beyond that, Bantu has not been an identity that the Igbos are familiar with. And what we on our own understand Bantu to mean is a group of languages that are predominant in Southern and Eastern Africa. So why I gave it attention was because this particular scholar was saying that the area that Igbo land falls into the languages he would call semi-Bantu languages. In other words, that the Igbo language may have similarities with the languages in East and Central Africa. That's the much I could make of it. But we have never known ourselves as Bantus. We have known ourselves as Igbos, Ebos, and so on and so forth. We never knew ourselves as a Bantu.
Okay, thank you very much, sister, for that call.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Let us know where you're calling from and what's your name and what's your question. Speak a little louder if you can, brother.
Okay, I'm in Wichita, Kansas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Wichita, Kansas. I go by Kendrick Messenger. My name is Cayenne. Kayan Zakat. And my question is, what does building a global network for Israel look like?
What does building a global network for Hebrews in the diaspora look like?
Yes, sir.
I think it is what the world needs now. Because we must be frank that it has not been built. And I believe that the Holy One has bestowed some special gifts to the Hebrew people. And I believe that the Hebrew people should bless the world with those gifts. So I think this is what the world needs now. And I repeat that it has not been built. But if we are able to build it and accommodate everybody who is connected to that Hebrew heritage, if we are able to come together, the world will come together. After all, why did God tell Abraham, through you I will bless the world? Can we say that we have seen the fruit of that blessing? I do not think so. So maybe God wants us to do something. So my answer to your question is, the world is waiting for that now.
Okay, excellent. One of our sisters have a question. The question is, do you have any connection to the royalty Eze Neri? Does he have any connection to His Highness?
Eze Neri. Can you spell that name?
Ezenri.
Okay, Ezenri.
All right.
Before the colonialists came and bastardized the Igbo culture, introduced a lot of things changed. They tried to change a lot of things. The Ezenri would be the equivalent of the high priest. He will be the equivalent of Aaron and his descendants. Because the Ezenri was the personality, the only personality whose authority extended beyond his own community of Unri in religious matters. So he was in position of much of a large of some areas of Igbo land as the high priest. If an area is not doing Omena and Torah very well, he will send his people to go and exhort, to encourage those other Igbos do it correctly. And I want to make one point, which did not come up in this interview. The Levite tradition is stronger is still 100% alive in the Igbo community. My own Ilona family, we accommodated Levites 200 plus years ago. How they came to join us was exactly the way Moshe said that the Levites will join their brother Israelites. My grandfather, Ilona, was sitting in front of his house. A man, a wife, and a child were passing by. He asked, "Who are you? Where are you going?" Immediately they mentioned where they were coming from. He knew who they were. He brought them in, gave them land. They are still with us 200 plus years after. And these people that are with us, their job in my communities, like if somebody takes his life by committing suicide, they are the person that carry out purifications, and they are related to this Ezenri. Do you get my point? They are the same Levites. Remember, the Levites are the brothers of the Kohanim. So the Ezenri is Kohanim. While this family that stayed with my community are Levites. And you know the funny thing? Nri, just like I think America is called the land of the brave. Am I right?
Yes.
The nickname for Nri is Nrienwelane. Let us go back to Genesis. When Jacob was blessing his sons, what did he tell? The blessing he gave to Levi was, I will scatter you in Israel, you shall not have a land, because Levi and Simeon went and attacked the Shechemites. So Nri Enwelane means Nri has no land. They took the name from Genesis down to West Africa.
Wow.
They took it until, glory be to the Holy One of Israel, until we came up with the research. All that they knew was, we don't have land. But why they did not have land, largely forgotten. So the Ezenri was our high priest before the Europeans came and they introduced a new religion, and that is Christianity. So now a lot of Igbos may not treat him with that respect he deserves, because if he wants that respect, everybody has to go back to that Israelite religion.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. Another question that we have live in the chat room is, they want me to ask you, are there any connections between the Igbo and the Limba of South Africa?
No.
Okay.
The groups we may have connections with, the groups we likely had connections with. Remember, history tried to scrub out what happened in West Africa. In the Songhai Empire, which extended into northern Nigeria, as Kia Mohammed drove away the Israelites there, he gave them 30 days to leave his domains or convert to Islam. Common sense tells us that a lot of them moved down to join Igbos. Then the Israelites also, that we are being driven away from Spain and Portugal. History will only tell us that they went to Europe, but common sense does not tell us that.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. I rarely do this, but that point you made is so powerful. When we talk about the Inquisition of 1492 and the expulsion of the Jews from Spain and Portugal, you noted that history regards that a significant amount may have went to Europe. But you and I know that is the propaganda, because the historical record reflects that the majority of the Jews that left Spain and Portugal went to West Africa. Is that right or wrong?
It makes sense for them to move to West Africa because the ecclesiastical authorities that they were running away from in Spain and Portugal, we are in those European countries. So why would they ignore West Africa? Historically, West Africa was not under Islamic or Christian rule then. Right. So why? Moreover, the Portuguese had been active in West Africa before the expulsions.
That's right.
So why would those Sephardic Jews not move to West Africa? It did not fit the history, so it was cropped off. I am not saying that some wouldn't have moved to Europe, but definitely Africa, West Africa was the first, must have been the first choice of destination.
We totally agree with you, by the way. And we understand that there's a bit of propaganda that has to be told in order to diminish the value of our story and make the story of others greater in reception. But the beautiful thing about history is, whether you choose to record it accurately or not, the truth of it will always come to light, because at some point, if it was exaggerated or worse yet, lied about, it's going to come around full circle and be revealed. So we say all glory to God on that note, brother. My closing remarks is to look at a couple of more questions and also shout out a couple of more people. So I want to say a thank you really quick to one more of our donor. Thank you, More Darrow, thank you very much. Sasha, Carlos, Stacy, thank you so very much for your donation. Also, family, keep in tune to this channel. We have so many interviews that are about to take place. I'll be interviewing several key people from the community very soon. I'll be interviewing Rabbi Akweti. Many of you should know him. Many of you should be familiar with his work. He's an amazing rabbi among us, and he's from Ghana. And he now resides here in the country. And this man is amazing. I fellowship with him in Detroit, and we get along so very well. And he is one more person from the continent of Africa, in West Africa in particular, that has key elements of our story that are so powerful and so impactful to the dialogues that we're looking to have throughout our diaspora and moreover in the community. Also, we have Sister Only Love coming to us this Sunday. She'll be talking about her work in the community, her ministry. She'll also be talking about the book that she's written. So stay tuned for that. We have at least 2 to 3 more interviews lined up this week. And I would like to bring our brother Remy back again as soon as we possibly can. I want to also give a thank you to all of our moderators. Thank you so very much, Tamika. You moderate for so many channels. The fact that you're here tonight says a lot, my sister. Thank you so very much for the work that you do in the community. Shout out to all of our moderators. Maura Lavia, thank you very much. Mark Kennedy, Lynette, thank you very much. Consuelo, thank you so very much. Our brother More Dna, thank you very much, Aki. We really, really appreciate you. To anyone who's interested, we hold Hebrew classes 2 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you'd like to jump in our Hebrew class, you can email me at zionlex@gmail.com. I'm going to leave it on you, brother. Does anyone have any more questions before I allow our brother to give some closing remarks? If you have any more questions, you can throw it in the chat room, or you can call us immediately at that call-in number. Absolutely. If anyone is interested in having someone appear on this platform, you can also email me at zionlex@gmail.com. A brother asked a question, Remy. He says, ask him about Odinani. Odinani.
Good. I wrote a book recently, and I explained what Odinani likely means. The Igbo religion is Omenana. Omenana, religion, culture you shall do in the land, found in Deuteronomy 6:1. And all the books that are published about the Igbo culture and religion, if you go to Amazon and type in Omenala, it's either pronounced with an L or an N, Omenala. FC Obalo, no, it may not be here. Yeah, it may not, okay, yeah, this book down there, Igbo religion. I can see it, Igbo religion and culture. Igbo, yes, that's it. So, the name of the religion is Omenana, or Omenala, or Omenani. But as people began to forget, some began to call it Ordinary. But the name historically, meaningfully, is Omenana. And I will illustrate, I will highlight this very well now. If somebody is misbehaving among the Igbos say, Ona eme omenenu. Ona eme omenenu. Omenana is things you do in the land, religion you do in the land. But when you are misbehaving in the Igbo community, the Igbos will say, Ona eme omenenu. He is acting as somebody that is acting in the air. Do you see the difference? When you behave very well, you are understood to be doing omenana. You are acting in accordance to the religion and culture that is to be done in the land. But when you begin to misbehave, Ona eme omenenu, he's acting out of context. So it's established that the name of the religion is omenana and not ordinana, because if you, nobody will say Ona eme ordina enu. He's acting in the air. So what ordinana would mean literally is things on the land. Things on the land. We understand that it began to come into vogue when some people began to be negligent with the actual name of the religion, Omenana.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
But to land on this, the Ordinana still goes on to stress that the Igbos understand that their religion is religion that must be done in the land. You understand that the core of the Israelite religion is that it's religion that is to be done in the land.
Mm.
In Rabbinic Judaism believes that there are laws that can only be kept in the land of Israel. Yeah.
Absolutely. Before you leave, I want to just take the family through some of your books. So I'm going to show as many of your books as I possibly can. And I want you to give us a very brief description of them so that we can go out and we can endorse your work. I know you've done some amazing work in the community, and I'd like to do that. But just before we do that, we have a caller. So hold on one moment. Caller, you're live on the air. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling from, and ask your question.
Yes, this is Brother Joe. I'm calling from St. Lucie, Florida.
All right.
My question is, if the elder could go ahead and expound on, he started to talk about Thomas Sowell, or however you say his name, on how he started talking about the greatest incubator company, I believe it was, that was coming out of the Igbo people. If you could just go a little bit more in depth on that, I'd like to hear more about that. That'd be all right.
Did you hear him, Remy?
No.
He asked your question one more time, brother.
Okay, but if you had him, you can.
Brother Remy, if you could expound on Thomas Sowell.
Okay, hold on one moment. If you
that the Igbos had the biggest incubator company.
Okay, he would like you to expound more on Thomas Sowell saying that the Igbo have the biggest incubator company.
No. Okay. I did not say that Thomas Sowell. I said that an American researcher went to Lagos and found that the Igbos have the largest business incubator in the world. I brought in Thomas Sowell to support what that American researcher found. Thomas Sowell, he has a video on YouTube where he was talking about the 5 most competitive peoples in the world. And the peoples he listed were Jews, Igbos, Chinese, Germans, and Japanese.
Thank you so much for that.
It's on YouTube. Thomas Sowell is on YouTube.
Thank you so very much for that, Remy. Let me do this really quick. This is going to be the last question, family. Just because of time, it's almost 2 hours. So we're gonna make this the last question. I'm gonna take one more question. The question that we have, Remy, is: do Igbos follow the new moon for Sabbath, or do Igbos believe that the Sabbath comes in on Friday night and leaves Saturday night? And the reason why I think that question is important, Remy, is because I follow the Sabbath day as coming in Friday night and leaving Saturday night. and I've been in the Hebrew community for well over 26 years. But within the last 5 or 6 years, there's a new emergence in the community as new minds and fresh ideas are coming, and people are starting to challenge some of the older views. I still retain the older view, but the question is directed towards you. Do you believe that the Sabbath comes in on Friday night, or do you follow the new moon?
This is a loaded question. Why I say it's a loaded question is because the Sabbath to the Igbos, I believe it's better to start from there. The Igbos have market days that come around every 4 days. Research has shown that this pattern of markets coming around every 4 days, you are going to find it up to ancient Egypt, into the Levant, beyond the Levant. Markets will come every 4 days. So how the Igbos observed Sabbath was the very first 4 days the very first 4 days, all the days are regular days. The very first 4 days, all those first day, second day, third day, fourth day are regular days. But when they enter another 4 days, the last the last day of the second 4 days, no work, no funerals, no weddings, only resting. So this was the day of rest in traditional Igbo society. In my community, where the community I came from, my own community would the day they would rest is called Nkwo Oru. Another community, the day they will rest is called Eke Uku. So as you are talking, this will be nearer because since it's not just 1 day, but different days, this may be pointing us to look more into how the Sabbath was viewed in very, very ancient times by our ancestors. So I would not go beyond this point on this because this is the much I wrote what happens, but I have not really examined how it connects to the moon. Of course, but we do the new moon. In fact, the Igbo word for moon, the Igbo word for moon is the Igbo word for month. The Igbo word for month is moon. Onwa. The Igbo word for month is moon.
Okay.
Onwa.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for that. Family, this has been a very, very powerful conversation, a very, very knowledgeable dialogue. I pray that the family continues to support our brothers and like-minded people in the community. This platform is going to be designed to give real scholars in the community a chance and opportunity to display their contribution before the world and before our community. One of the people that I would love to interview very soon is also our brother. Shout out to our brother, the head of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, Brother Divine Prospect. He's definitely a brother that I'd like to interview very, very soon. He's a very, very powerful, a very, very inspirational, and a very, very prolific mind among us today. And I'm honored to say that that's also my brother in truth. So with that being said, I believe that we definitely can get an interview from our brother. So look out for that interview soon as well. If there are no more questions, what we're simply going to ask the family to do, for those who have not donated, can you please send a donation? We have our Cash App listed. We have our PayPal listed. Please, family, hit the like button, hit the share, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. If you came on this live and you haven't subscribed, that's a problem. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Please, don't just like it, subscribe. I want to see that many more subscribers because I promise you that's the only way that you're going to be able to see the notifications for the next video. Thank you so very much, Brother Divine Prospect. It would be an honor to have you on the show. In fact, I actually asked if we could share the call-in number just once more, if we can hear from you tonight. So if it's possible, Brother Divine, if we could hear from you tonight, is there a question that we can close the show with you asking our brother Remy? Can someone please share the call-in number for Divine Prospect? I'll give the honors to our brother and allow him to close the show with a question. Can somebody please share the call-in number? Okay. All right, Brother Divine Prospect, if you can hear me, the call-in number is 718-709-9859. That's 718-709-9859. We'd love to hear from you, Brother Divine. If you could close the show with a question for our brother Remy. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I know who you are, but just in case there's somebody that don't know who you are, could you please let the people know who you are, where you're calling from, and go into your question?
No problem. Shalom, Moray, Zion Lexx, as well as Moray, Remy, Ilona. This is your brother Divine Prospect calling in to patronize my brother Zion Lexx and his platform. He's been putting this work in for some time and still has Remy Ilona. Met Remy a couple of years ago. We've been in touch and I've been supporting his work for a while, just like I do my brother Zion Lexx. And just wanted to come on this platform just to show some love, man, because these brothers are doing something amazing in the community. They're rare gems that we need to cherish. And, everything that y'all was talking about tonight is just profound, man. And I'm just grateful to be able to have an opportunity just to listen to your rap. So, I try to think what kind of question I can ask to Remy Ilona. So I think the most important thing, I guess, to me, Remy, is if somebody was to ask, how can you validate the Igbo migration from Israel to Nigeria by way of oral tradition, right? So if you were to analyze the oral tradition, how can the oral tradition tell us about the migration routes? How can it authenticate the migration route of Israelites from Israel to Nigeria?
Thank you, my brother. I think I got most of the gist of the question. Thank you, my brother Ron. If I'm right, the question is, how can I validate the migration of the Israelites from the Levant to West Africa? Am I right?
By way of the oral tradition.
Igbo oral tradition.
Yeah. A lot of obstacles, I wouldn't call them obstacles, because to dignify them with the term obstacles will be dignifying things we shouldn't dignify, but a lot of assumptions are steadily being removed. The time has passed when people thought that written records are necessarily stronger than oral traditions. For one, people have even come to realize that the written traditions themselves are products of oral traditions. So the validation is simply, the strongest validation is simply, the Israelite culture is essentially unique. So if you found it here and find it at another point, to the extent you find it in the Igbo tradition, that is conclusive evidence that migrations occurred. Otherwise, we will be talking about two Israels existing in antiquity, totally independent. But we even go beyond that. In the Igbo oral traditions, it is filled with stories of droughts. And there is no record that there has been a time when the rains did not fall in Igbo land. In Igbo land, we have rain 11 months of the year. How come that over 50% of the stories of the tortoise, are filled with droughts? Or including the Hadgadia. You know, we have a version. We have the Igbo version of the Hadgadia, the Zuzim. So the evidence is inside the story itself. That the story is inside the evidence is inside the story itself, inside the fact itself. And as I mentioned before I began to give the answer, the people themselves believe they came from Israel. And the migration route exists across the desert and from the sea, from Spain and Portugal. This is combine this with the fact that the people themselves believe that they came from Israel. And one of the traditions is so alive that everybody may have heard about it, about a group of Igbos that believe they are descendants of Gad, descendants of the sixth son of Jacob. So not only are the people sure that they came from Israel, but they retain the name of an ancestor. And the names of so many ancestors are represented in the names of many Igbo communities. And then moving away from just the narrative that we came from the Israelites, the culture itself establishes that the migrations occurred. You move away from that, even still moving into recorded history, we have proof that the Portuguese had come down to West Africa before the 14th century. I'm talking of the later migrations. And from the more we read about these voyages by the Portuguese, the more we see that a lot of the people on those ships were Jews or Israelites. I prefer the term Israelites since it's more embracing, and Christians. So I think we have enough, we have more than enough evidence to validate the migrations. You know, I still didn't mention DNA because that would be singing to the choir or preaching to the choir.
Okay, thank you so very much for that. Thank you so very much for your question too, Brother Divine Prospect.
Anytime. I appreciate you for allowing me to speak on here, Moray, Diane, and if you ever want to rap or build, just let me know, okay?
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Ron.
You too, Remy. Shalom.
Okay, shalom.
Shalom.
I want to give some closing thoughts. I want to say that, there's very few people that, I go out of my way to patron, because in my experience in the Hebrew community, I've just had the unfortunate experiences of, running into a lot of people that predominantly are very contentious. But when it comes to Brother Divine Prospect, we have a history that now goes back almost 6-7 years of knowing each other. And we've always had a very, very amazing and amicable friendship, even through any differences that we've encountered over the years. And this is somebody that I respect so much. So if I can throw this one at you, family, when Divine Prospect comes on this channel to have a bill, we're actually going to talk about the oral tradition of the Torah. we are going to see whether or not the Torah actually has what we regard as an oral Torah. So Divine Prospect is surely an amazing mind and a very profound scholar. Some of you also rate my mind in the community. We are going to tackle the issue on whether or not such a concept is even valid. Is there an oral Torah that goes along with the written text? And if so, to what extent has it survived today? And how do we differentiate it apart from what we know is the European impetus on this oral tradition? So look out for that. That could actually come sooner than you think. So be on the lookout for that. To Brother Remy, I want to close with something. So from the time that we've known each other, you know that my area of strength is in Hebrew linguistics.
Yeah.
You know, I don't write anything about the culture of Torah unless I describe it from its Hebraic sense.
Yeah.
So as you were telling me that it's almost impossible to find an Igbo man without his red hat, right? Because of how important it is to Igbo culture. I want to throw this at you. The word Igbo, I'm looking up the root in Hebrew, and the word Igbo, if it were a Hebrew word, it could possibly be spelled Aleph, Gimel, Beit, Ayin. It could possibly be rendered that way. For those who know Hebrew, you know it could certainly be spelled Aleph, Gimel, Bet, Ayin. What's very significant about that spelling is this. The letter Aleph may not be part of the root. It may just be the prefix, which is the first person future I will. So that the root could possibly be Gimel, Beit, Ayin. What's significant about that, Brother Remy? The root Gimel, Beit, Ayin is used in Exodus 28 and 40 as a tall hat that went along with the priestly garments and is said to have a cup shaped, just like the red hat that the Igbo men wear.
Interesting.
And the cup shape is in Exodus 25:31, and the word is spelled Gimel, Bet, Yod, Ayin, Yod, Hey. It's a cup-shaped design. Then in Exodus 28:40, the same word is used to denote a tall hat. So I thought that was highly significant to mention, my brother.
It is amazing and it is thought-provoking.
Absolutely. So family, we are going to close this live here. Look forward in the near future to have some more dialogues with our brother Remy. He has so much information. Family, if you can, I know that you sent us some money. I know that you supported Remy in that sense. Don't allow that to stop you from purchasing his books. So his name is Remy Ilona. You can find him on Amazon. Remy Ilona, if you can, could you just tell us some of your books? That way our family can find you on Amazon.
Yeah. I wrote this book last year. That was my country. That was my, not my only contribution, but one of my core contributions to knitting the family together. Because I felt that it would be a shame to come to America, spend some time without doing more than I have done to come together with our brothers and sisters that were separated from us 400 to 500 years ago during the test. So I took a look at what a lot of my colleagues have done. A lot of my colleagues have done good work, but I felt that we could do more. And I believe that I bridged a gap. That gap that I bridged was that for the first time, according to people that have, one of our brothers is going to come up with his review of this book soon, An African American History. from Israel through Africa to America and Caribbeans. In order not to make the title too long, I use the America since the Caribbeans is also part of America. According to our brother, we woke up African Americans and Caribbeans like Equiano and others who we are saying we are descendants of Israelites. This is who we are. When we are brought to this part of the world and saw Judaism, we recognized it as a sister religion. In other words, when we talk about the African-American connection, African-American and Caribbean connection to the religion of Israel, we must we shouldn't continue to neglect this aspect of the country, of what contributed to the African American and Caribbean affinity for the Torah. A lot of them are onto the Torah because it is the tradition they practiced in Africa. This is what this book talks about, and it lays it out in facts and figures.
I'm going to get that book. I am absolutely going to get that book. And I'm also going to recommend it to everyone in my class. So for those of you in our Hebrew and Torah class, I'm going to ask that everyone get this book. That way we can use it in our Torah class discussion. An African-American History from Israel through Africa to America by Remy and Ilona. Let's support our brother Hebrew class and Torah class by all of us purchasing this book as soon as we can so we can make it the topic of discussion in class.
Then, this is Broken Paradise. This deals with this covers that migration from Spain, Portugal, Songhai, and I went further to compare civilizations. I will do a diversion at this stage. When I went to the Haitian independence anniversary a few years ago, one of the speakers was very fascinating. He told Haitians to be a proud people. You have a great history. You've given so much to the world. So, in the course of my research, brothers and sisters, I uncovered a lot of evidence that this is not emotion. If we banish emotion, we still contributed so much to history, so much to human development, that we are supposed to be a proud, though humble people. So I compared this Igbo civilization here to the greatest civilizations in the world, or the civilizations that are viewed as the greatest. And in many ways, this civilization was not found wanting. So I call this book Broken Paradise. And if you could, it's a very short read, less than 60 pages. If you read it, you will begin to see the world differently. And I come to the conclusion that we are not a people that have anything to be ashamed of. We've given so much to the world.
That's right.
This is Culture, Religion, and DNA, Hebrew Igbo Republics. This is the cultural analysis, where you are going to find a lot of the things we discussed, like the Levirate marriage, the Igbo marriage, which is monogamous or polygamous, and in fact, the religion, the culture, and the DNA. There is a tradition again that is central to the Israelites that I am sure that it survived only in the Igbo community. This tradition is, if you think of the Torah again, you would remember that when Solomon and Joab had issues, Joab ran into the temple and caught hold of the horns of the temple.
That's right.
but Solomon ordered him brought out of there. Yeah. If he had survived, what would he have been? He would have become an auxiliary priest. Yeah, he would have become, that tradition survived 100% in the Igbo community. Do you remember the Gibeonites that tricked Joshua? And Joshua said, now you should walk in the house of my God. That tradition was taken note of by the Talmud. The Talmud called them the Netivim. But where that tradition became a living culture and is still alive in 2020 is among the Igbo. I wrote about it in this book. It's also on Amazon. This is a novel, but it captures even my personal history. It has a record of even my illness that defined my life. It captures when I was ill. I had gotten ill to the extent that I had practically, well, I don't know if other people have this experience. When people want to leave this world, like I had that, I was in law school when my father died, but my mother said that for days before my father passed on, that he only began to mention names of his brothers that none of us knew, brothers and sisters that had passed on. He had moved from one plane to the other. So when my eyes were when I was ill, my eyes were open. I saw myself in ancient Judah as the Babylonians were approaching. Part of it entered the story. I was transported back there. You know, reincarnation is a very big part of our beliefs. My eyes were opened when I nearly left this world. I was sick to the extent that I had a colostomy and a laparectomy. Most Nigerians have not heard of colostomy before. You are familiar with colostomy?
Yes, yes.
I had a colostomy. Yeah, so I was so near to that bridge that my eyes were opened, my past was revealed to me. As the Babylonians were approaching, I climbed a horse and wanted to drive off. A young prophet came and said, think of all the people and not just your own safety. From Judah, which was filled with Israelites and Judeans. Because history, when I say history, I like to put quotes. Oppressive history gives us the impression that some are subordinate to the others by, some are called lost tribes and so on and so forth. But what the history tells us is that a lot of the Israelites from the northern kingdom moved into the southern kingdom when the Assyrians approached Israel. So, and when the Babylonians came, a large number of them also did not allow themselves to be captured. They simply moved into Africa through Egypt and continued to travel. So, because I cannot handle that work like history, I turned it into literature. But if you are going through, you would find a lot of my personal stories in it. You would also find a lot of Israelite traditions like the Nazirite tradition, the red cap people. You would find it in this book. So the others are on Amazon. There is also this. Separated Hebrew sisters. We have to keep on saying the truth because the truth will save us. The ingathering has not started happening. Any ingathering that ignores the Igbos, ignores their African American descendants, and they ignores their Caribbean descendants is not a real ingathering. The house of Israel is separated. That was why I told my brother that if one of my brothers that asked a question about a Hebrew superstructure, if it comes alive, glory be to God, so that everybody will come together, sit on the table, and discuss the future of the Torah. Torah should be what the world should be run with. we wouldn't deceive ourselves by saying that Torah is what we are using to run the world now. But if we can come together as one, the world will be forced to emulate us, so that the right instrument that will give happiness to the greatest number of human beings in the world will be brought to the fore, and that is Torah. So the purpose of this one is to show the fact of separation. It is there. Thank you. The others are on Amazon. They can be found on Amazon.
Thank you very much, Remy. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to having you again. Thank you so very much. Family, thank you for supporting this. This will be up live on YouTube. You can go back and play it, share it. Don't leave the channel without clicking that subscribe button, family. Shalom, shalom to everyone. See you later.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Remy. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.